So this is their new policy. Their new policy says that Southwest employees can submit a religious or medical exemption and continue to work with pay while the exemption is being processed. Before, I think we're led to believe, people that submitted an exemption could not work. The exemption is being worked through, and maybe it's approved and maybe it's denied. But if they don't have the vaccine, they can't work, and so they can't get paid. And that was the original policy. That was the original deadline. And now, curiously, a week after all these flight cancellations, which had to do with weather, according to Southwest, the union, and the news media, now they've softened the policy completely and said that all you have to do to keep your job and keep your pay is merely apply for an exemption while they decide. So all those employees will be able to continue to work and then therefore continue to be air traffic controllers or pilots or whatever. The flights can keep going and they can say, well, the deadline is enforced. Everybody working for Southwest either has been vaccinated or has applied for an exemption and nobody in any other category. And so it remains to be seen if this is a positive development. I have a strong feeling that it's only a matter of time before they just tell everybody, if you don't get vaccinated, you're fired. Now, that doesn't mean that people should not try to get a medical or religious exemption if they can. I think they should. If you're able to do that, I think you should take full advantage of that and continue to get paid and continue to work. And in the meantime, you have to look for another job. You're going to have to figure something else out, figure out how you're going to get money and make a living without having to get the vaccine, because we've heard all of this before. You know, we were told at the beginning of the year there would be no federal mandate. We heard this from Nancy Pelosi. We heard this from Jen Psaki. We heard this from Joe Biden, from Fauci, the CDC, the FDA. They all said, we're not doing a federal vaccine mandate. It wouldn't even be legal if we tried. Well, here we are now. As of last week, they filed the rule change at OSHA, which fines employers of big companies, federal contractors. And by the way, this is like hundreds of millions of employees are subject to this. This is like a majority of the workforce. Works at a company with more than 100 employees, or a company that contracts with the federal government, or works for the federal government itself. And they came out with this back in mid-September. They filed it last week that all those employers would be fined if they didn't forcibly vaccinate all their people, if they didn't mandate the vaccine at their workplace. And this is all the schools and all the universities. And this is our major cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles and New York City. And we see this pattern time and time again with the pandemic. That's just one example. That's just using two data points. But this has been going on throughout the pandemic. They will tell us one thing and say, we'll never do this. And then 6 months later, they do exactly that. You know, they said back in March, it's 5 weeks to stop the spread. That was in March 2020, by the way. And then 5 weeks later, they said it'll be another 5 weeks, but we'll be done by Easter or June. And then Easter and June rolled around, and they said we'll be done by August. And then August rolled around, and they said later. And it's like with everything else. First, they said no vaccine mandate, and then they started to do the incentives. Then they started to do the punitive disincentives, you know, the fines, the vaccine passport system, which is being put into place in, like I said, the major cities. Now they say, well, there will be exemptions. There will be exemptions for people that don't want to get it. And you know what's going to happen in the meantime is, while some people are getting exemptions, and it's in some cases being decided in the courts, and some companies are negotiating with their employees, in the meantime, every single day that goes on, more and more and more people get vaccinated. Because people do not want to be inconvenienced. And a lot of people aren't dying on the hill of the vaccine. They're not conscientious objectors with strong convictions. There's people that prefer not to get it or are too lazy to get it, or maybe they just simply don't want it. Each and every day, thousands of those people are being convinced to get it. And as that goes on, the proportion of the workforce which really will not get the vaccine is shrinking. And the government, what they're really doing is just running out the clock. They're ramping up the pressure. Every day that passes, more people are going onto the side of the vaccinated. And they're weeding out all the people that really don't care that much. And we're going to get to the point where it's going to be a very small fraction of the workforce just outright refuses under any circumstance to get vaccinated. People that can do that, people that, in other words, are in a financial position to do that, or they're in a professional position to do that, or even if they're not, they don't care. We're going to get to the point where everybody other than that small percentage of people will get vaccinated. And once that point happens, we will cross a certain threshold, and then the government and the corporations and the cities will have all the cards. You can't fire 50% of the workforce. You can't say that 50% of the population cannot shop at Walmart or board an airplane or travel between states. But it's a lot easier when it's 10% of the population. It's probably doable if it's 3% of the population or 3% of the workforce. And this is how they are thinking. So right now they're telling people, well, we're still going to have a deadline and you still have to be vaccinated. But while we process your exemptions, you can still work. And all this is meant to do is just simply wait out with maximum pressure, with full social and professional sanction on the unvaccinated, waiting for all the people that don't really care to get vaccinated so that eventually they will have the minimum number of dissenters and then can exert the real pressure, which is to say, get vaccinated or you're fired. No exemptions, no exceptions, no lawsuits, no class action, no nothing. You get it or you have to get out of town. That's what they're waiting to do. So it remains to be seen how this will go. And I'm telling people, get your exemptions insofar as you're going to be making money, going to work, and setting yourself up and preparing for the inevitability, the eventuality that you will be fired. So get your exemptions, but let's not kid ourselves. The only reason they're doing that is so that they can one day pull the rug out from under everybody and then finally get the holdouts, finally get the last remaining people, do one more wave, maybe the fines increase dramatically, maybe they put it in the law, I don't know, but they'll make one last ditch, probably half of the remaining people will get it when push comes to shove, and then the remaining people will be disposable, they will be expendable, they will be fired, they will be excised from society, and it'll just be over for them. That's the game plan, that's the strategy. In this case, that's exactly what happened to Southwest. It turns out that thousands of their employees did not want to get vaccinated. And if Southwest fired all those people, they wouldn't have a company anymore. So now they're doing exactly what I just described. They're going to take the applications. They're going to let everybody go back to work and keep making their living. They're going to have their cake and eat it too. Have a full vax mandate. Everyone that's working has submitted to the system in the sense that they've either been vaccinated or they've begged to be exempted from the rule that everybody be vaccinated. And in the meantime, they get to work while all of that is being decided. In other words, while everyone else is getting vaccinated, while they're approaching the point where the only people that refuse it can be fired and are totally expendable. That's that. They have an agenda which is hidden, in the sense that it's not explicit. It's not hidden very well, but they've got a concealed agenda, which is not public, which they're not pursuing openly. They have got a concealed, hidden agenda. They in the media conspire with everyone else in media and all the other parts of the American power structure. They have a shared agenda. They conspire with everyone in the media and all the other power institutions in the power structure to fulfill that agenda using lies and other deceptive and illegal means. That's what we know based on this. So you could look at this, and a typical person would roll their eyes and say, oh, the liberal media is lying again. Yeah, the media lies. It's bigger than that. It's not one of them. They're all lying. Everyone in the company is lying, in all the companies. And they're all lying in the same way that the federal government is lying, in the same way that the big tech social media companies are lying. The big tech companies are the biggest companies in the world. Do people really know that? The biggest companies in the world are Amazon, Apple, Alphabet, Facebook. Am I missing one? Amazon, Apple, Alphabet, Facebook, and others, of course. But these are the biggest companies in the world. The richest, the biggest market cap, the most revenue, run by the richest people in the world. When you talk about Silicon Valley, some people think about it like Wall Street, Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley runs Wall Street. Look at the major stock indices, S&P 500 and the Dow. What are the top companies on the S&P 500? What are the companies that accounted for all the growth of the S&P 500? They are the top 5 big tech companies. It is those companies. And when you look at the richest people in the world, who are they? Who are the richest billionaires in the world? And there's thousands of billionaires in America. And somebody that has $200 billion like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos is a lot more powerful than someone with $1 billion. Someone with $1 billion is far richer than anybody watching the show, maybe with some exceptions. But somebody with $1 billion is far richer than me and richer than any of us can ever hope to be. But somebody with $200 billion or $50 billion or $100 billion, they're 50, 100, 200 times richer than that. They run the big tech companies. Most powerful people running the most powerful companies. And the nature of those companies makes them powerful too because it concerns information. And that's where all the other companies go to buy and sell. That's where all the companies go to access people and sell their products. So we're not just talking about anybody here. Keep in mind that we are talking about raw power. We are talking about the real people who really run society. Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and their companies, and the companies that their companies own. Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. The Washington Post is one of the most prestigious, important publications in the world. And of course, in America. And they own other media conglomerates, which own all the television networks, which own all the newspapers and own all the websites. And that's where all this information is coming from. And that's all the information that people are consuming. And those people that are creating the information, and they have a monopoly on this industry of creating information, of distributing information, of interpreting the information and forming opinion based on the information and then selling that. Those people that have a monopoly on that process, they have an agenda which is concealed, which they are working with everyone else to achieve to take advantage of you. Like that. And we know that just based on this. So I cover this all the time. But that's where people need to wake up, because a lot of people think it's just as bad as, well, the people that run CNN are liberal, like the workers have a liberal bias. They have a liberal disposition. Or they'll say, the media's in bed with the Democratic Party. No. It's much bigger than that. All the people that make information and distribute it, they are in league and conspiring with the most powerful people in the world to remake the world order and remake our country according to their own vision, which they conceal. It's not hidden well, because you go to these World Economic Forum conferences like Davos and Bilderberg and whatever, and it's, they make it plain actually what their plans are, but they're not going on CNN and saying, hi, we're lying to you so that you will get vaccinated and you will live on a small parcel of land so that we can redistribute the resources to the top and so on. But it's there. And it's all self-evident when you look at something like this. It all follows. We knew there was a strike at Southwest against the vaccine, but they lied about it because they know if they reported on it, people would start to strike too. You would get more strikes than you would if you didn't cover it. So they chose to lie because they want everyone to get vaccinated. And it's not even just like a personal thing. They answer to somebody who wants everybody to get vaccinated. Probably not everybody at CNN and ABC and NBC and CBS agrees. Not everybody from the owner and the board and the CEO to the vice presidents and the editors and the news anchors and the reporters and the janitors and the coffee people and the interns. Probably not everybody up and down vertically in the company agrees and has the same political views. But they are all in a hierarchy, and the company is under a hierarchy. And so they all answer to somebody. And so it really doesn't matter. It's not a matter of bias or preference, although that's going on too. It's about the conspiracy. They are all in on it. They're all in on it with people more powerful than them and us, that they, the order came down, everybody's got to get vaccinated. So that's the lens through which everybody now will view the world. Southwest wasn't on strike. It was bad weather. Everybody wants to get the vaccine, but they just can't get it because they're poor or something like that. It's a distribution problem. The vaccine is safe and effective, and nobody is dying from it, and there are no adverse effects. That's the lens through which all of the information will flow now. So it's very important to understand how the world works, because otherwise you will become a slave to the propaganda. You will see the world the way that they want you to see it, and so you'll believe what they want you to believe, and you will fall in line and bring about the agenda that they want, which is not good for us. It's already been an hour. I didn't think I'd spend so much time on that, but whenever we get into this subject, I always want to be very thorough about it, because this is something that if you came up to somebody and just started talking about, you would sound crazy. But understand, all of this is necessarily true. What I'm trying to do is demonstrate how we can know large truths about our world. I'm trying to demonstrate logically how those big things are necessarily true based on small things that we know to be true, right? We could, like in this example, we could see that Southwest lied, we know that. And it's very important for me to demonstrate, and I do it all the time. I remember the first few instances, when I was doing my show in 2017, Megyn Kelly interviewed Vladimir Putin, I think in March or April 2017. It was very famous. And in that interview, they were talking about the Russians that were charged for interfering in the election. It was 13 individuals who bought Facebook advertisements in Michigan or something. And Megyn Kelly said, well, what about these 13 guys that got charged? And Putin was like, well, they weren't working for the government. Maybe they weren't even Russian at all. Maybe they were Armenian. Maybe they were Azeri. Maybe they were Jews. Maybe they were this or that. And I remember then the next day, all the media said, Putin blames Russian hacking on the Jews. And I was like, well, that's not what he said. I watched the interview. We all saw the subtitles, but all the media then took this and ran with it the next day. They all lied. And it's like, if you could catch them, which happens all the time, but if you can catch them on some of these instances where it's brazenly obvious, like the Let's Go Brandon thing, you could see it for what it is. If you really think logically about it, it's not a bias. The media is not liberal. The media is the mouthpiece of a global power structure. And everything they say is not truthful. They're not trying to report the news, but they're a little bit biased. It's not like they're trying to report what's really happening, and they're truth seekers and they're investigators, but they just have a different opinion than we do. Everything that they write, everything that they produce, all their opinions, all their information, the primary goal of that is not to expose, report, etc. It is to fashion public opinion. And that's how you have to look at all of it. All media, all entertainment, all opinion is a show for you to manipulate how you think. Nobody is getting on Fox or CNN. Nobody is writing for the Huffington Post or Vice to inform or to do expository or investigate or bring people to justice. It is all in the service of earning credibility from the reader or from the viewer, and then with what they report, fashion a perception of the world that will lead people to certain conclusions and actions that will benefit the status quo, benefit the people that run the country. Case in point. No, there was no strike at Southwest. Take your vaccines. And the media is in on it, and they're all in on it. Conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy fact. It's not a theory. That's not a hypothesis. It's provable. It's real. We just did. Conspiracies, when people get together, I know, now I'm just belaboring it. I know you get it, but that's what it is. People get together secretly to carry out a crime. That's what goes on. Conspiracy theory, it's conspiracy fact. It's conspiracy world. We are being conspired against by the world's most powerful people. That's confirmed. It's real. It's all real. Anyway, so that's Southwest. Sorry if I get a little autistic about that, but that's so important. It's so important for people to realize that. Turn off your fucking TV. Not right now, but when you're watching something else, turn off your TV. But that's so important. If you know nothing else, you should know that. Okay. I get a little I don't know what it is. Whenever I talk about that, I get a little nutty. Maybe it's because it just pisses me off. It does kind of drive you crazy. That's what the red pill is. When people say take the red pill, in case you don't know, that is in essence what the red pill is. You know, in the Matrix, Neo takes the red pill, and what happens? He realizes that the world he lives in is not real, right? That he's in this sack, right? He's in this artificial womb created by robots, and he's essentially a brain in a vat. Because now when people say red pill, they mean like you're Republican. I'm red pilled because I vote for Mitch McConnell. I'm a red pilled Republican. It's like, no, you're not. The red pill means realizing that the reality is constructed. It means that your perception of reality is not, but your perception of reality, which is very real, is constructed. It's constructed by the kind of ecosystem of information that you are in, what you hear from friends and family, what you watch on television, what you see on billboards and social media. It's shaped by other people's attitudes and what they say. Observing reality and observing phenomena is one thing, but your perception of reality, the lens through which you're interpreting reality, that is constructed in your mind. And propaganda influences that. And the red pill is realizing, oh, my reality is constructed. That is not real. That was all built so I would see certain things and hear certain things. And the red pill is breaking all of that, and then you got to pick up the pieces and create a sort of coherent perception of the world that is based on phenomena, that is based on, what is verifiable, what you can see. Something closer to the real world, something that's not as, that doesn't obscure reality. That's what it means to be red-pilled. So that's why it's so important. That's why it's kind of like the foundation of our whole movement is being red-pilled, realizing that, hey, everything that we thought we knew, we don't really know.